Hello. It is a beautiful night in New York City, but it's always a beautiful night for flash fiction. So we welcome you to the FBOMB Global Flash Fiction Reading Series, hosted by myself, Francine Witte, and Paul Beckman, who you will meet later on. So we have a wonderful group of readers tonight, and just to start off, I'd like to warm up the room. So I'll read a couple of micros myself. The first one appeared in one of our readers tonight has a very nice journal called Gooseberry Pie. And so I'm going to read the piece that he was nice enough to publish a few months ago. And it's 6 sentences. That's what the idea of this journal is. The dead guy's phone keeps calling me. I answer, same as always. Night fingers, sweaty and clamped around me like a fist I can't shake out of. I was the last kiss on the dead guy's lips, all strawberry luscious but stinking of goodbye. He left after a comfort scotch or two. Later, he drove himself into a wall that was harder than unreturned love. Now, when he calls, I tell him, same as always, come back, maybe we can try again. Thank you. And the second one was from a collection of Eclipse poems, and because it was in print, I didn't show the whole thing on Facebook, so I'm going to read it. It's called Slide of Moon. Slowly across the sun's yellow flower face, and we can't help but gather ourselves wisps of ghostly dandelion spores. We are clustered, our necks tilting away from the flat earth of our everyday. We cover our eyes with special glasses, dare to peek through pinhole viewers, and we briefly remember we are little more than bits on a galaxy sash. We are flyaway and passing, flicked off the moment we die. But here we are today for this one single held breath with songbirds going silent, and we huddle together back into that single organism we were maybe meant to be, brought together in the day dark as the moon closes off the sun like some giant held up thumb. The eclipse and us going total, and we aren't scared, not even for a second. And then the whole thing passes back to normal, the moon going back to its part of the sky, and we scatter back apart. We scatter back apart like some unseen wish breath was blowing on us. We go back to our separate lives, the fear of death eclipsed again, like always. We forget the fact that one day, billions of eons from now, the sun will be hidden again, fade like a dying flower, blacked out forever and gone. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to switch it to speaker view now. Okay, so I am going to start introducing some of the readers. First up, Sara Siddiqui Chansarkar is an Indian-American writer. She is the author of Morsels of Purple and Skin Over Milk, both wonderful books. She's working on her first novel. Her stories and essays have been published in numerous anthologies, including the Best Small Fictions 22 and 23. She is a fiction editor for Smoke Long Quarterly. More at sarapunyfingers.com, Twitter at punyfingers. Sara Siddiqui Chansarkar.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to read two pieces today. The first one I picked is from Smoke Long Quarterly, and this was published in 2021. The title of the story is The Goat in the Math Problem. A goat is tethered at the boundary of a circular field with a rope 1.5 times the radius of the field. What is the area of the grass the goat can eat? The goat in the math problem has no appetite, although the grass is fresh and green and moist. Tethered to a tube well shaft, she looks at the tiny purple and yellow flowers dotting the grass, raises her head to gaze at the silk spilling out of corn ears in the adjoining farm, at the blue sky smattered with white clouds. The goat in the math problem knows. She knew it this morning, huddled with other goats under the dealer's shed. Wads of rupees exchanged hands before her rope was untied and handed to a burly, bearded man. She bleated, dug her hooves in the ground, headbutted the man who scooped her up, threw her in the back of his rusty truck. Other animals watched. A stench rose in the air as bladders and rectums released. The goat in the math problem observes a ribbon of smoke rise from the chimney of the two-story house across the circular field. Then a young boy emerges and runs past the truck parked outside, past the hens pecking at the ground. He's coming toward her. As the boy approaches, the goat notices he's about as tall as the burly man, but slimmer. He kneels beside the goat and extends a naan for her to eat. The aroma of the freshly cooked bread is appealing, but the goat retreats, gazes into the boy's eyes from a distance. The boy moves closer, caresses her brown and white back, scratches her ears, and cuddles her in his arms. To the goat, the boy's eyes look kind, his touch reassuring, the sound of his heartbeat calming. She rests her head on his forearm and nibbles at the naan. The goat in the math problem jumps up from the boy's lap when he retrieves a folding knife from the pocket of his kurta and opens the blade. She bolts away from the boy as far as the tether allows, the rope tracing an arc below which is the area of the grass the math problem expects her to eat. The goat in the math problem positions her head parallel to the ground in an attacking stance as the boy's knife gleams in the sunlight. She staggers and stomps as the boy yanks her close to him and brings the blade down on the taut rope, inches away from the goat's neck. The goat falls backward as the rope drops, then springs up and darts towards the pond stalks, swaying in the autumn breeze. The boy, who's not in the math problem, knows he'll be made to skip a meal as a punishment for allowing the goat to escape. The goat his father had bought to sacrifice on the Eid holiday. But he's not worried. A little hunger won't kill him. He pockets his knife and watches the puffs of dust around the goat's hooves until they disappear. This was the first one. And the second is a very tiny 100-word piece that appeared in National Flash Fiction Day last year. All my lovers, gone before the toothpaste flattened out, leaving behind ellipses of passion on my thighs, tumbler stains on the nightstand, coat hangers, belt buckles, cigarette ash, Altoid tints, dimes and nickels, nail clippers, beard butter, and hairs in the bathroom, embedded in the grout between the tiles, suspended in the clouds of shaving foam, curled up on the soap bar like commas. On owl nights, I watched the lakes and lagoons asterisks in the wall map, places I said I wanted to visit with them, and their faces float like bubbles in bathwater. Their eyebrows question mark, their mouths full stops. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sara, Siddiqui, Chansarkar. They're both beautiful pieces. Like, make sure you look at the chat. Some very nice comments in there. Okay, next up we have Jeff Harvey of the aforementioned Gooseberry Pie. Jeff Harvey grew up in the Mid-South near Memphis and now calls San Diego home. His work has been published or is forthcoming in Moon Park Review, 5 South Lit, Bending Genres, 10 by 10 Flash, Sledgehammer Lit, McQueen's Quinterly, Roy Finant, and Flash Flood 2024. His work has been longlisted for Wiggly's Top 50. He is founder, editor of Gooseberry Pie. Jeff Harvey.
Thanks, Francine. Thank you for inviting me. Today, I've got two pieces to read. The first one is Life Would Be Perfect. Three sons wearing matching blue velvet bow ties. The mother had on a black dress with a Christmas tree brooch, just like from the Sears catalog. The boys had straight teeth, white with no gaps. If my teeth were like theirs, I'd smile for pictures too. Their haircuts reminded me of David Cassidy's, so different than the uneven cuts Dad gave me after he'd had a couple of shots of Jim Beam. At the bottom of the card, it read, Wentworth Country Club, a place where I washed dishes last summer during a wedding of the most popular girl in town. They allowed me to bring home a piece of her wedding cake, red velvet, her new husband's favorite. Said I couldn't eat it there. Said it wouldn't look right. Said I had to take it home. I unwrapped it on the walk home. It tasted like cake from the school cafeteria, and I tossed it into someone's garbage can. After Christmas, I took the card and placed it in my storage box, along with my life savings of $16.12, my diary, a picture of Donna Summer, and Bobby Canfield's number. I held Bobby's number and thought about his curly blonde hair, his hunky frame, his laugh, so different than my frizzy hair, acne-infested skin, and high-pitched giggle. If I had a haircut and pearly teeth like the boss's boys, I might work up the courage to call Bobby, to ask him to hang out on Saturday, to see that movie, True Grit, with John Wayne. Bobby didn't really give me his number. I cut it out of last year's phone book, and I've never spoken to him. He sits 3 rows over from me in world history and only talks with cheerleaders. Bobby was a running back for the Baldwin Tigers and lived on the good side of town near Dad's boss. During Friday night's game, I climbed a tree in Bobby's yard and could see his bedroom. A light was on and a senior picture hung on the wall. I waited until he got home from the game and I watched as he got undressed. I liked his pajamas, dark blue. I slept in my underwear. Always extra money around my house for another dog or shotgun, but nothing as useless as pajamas. His dad came in the room and argued with him. I couldn't hear, but I saw him push Bobby against the wall and then punch him in the gut. I couldn't watch anymore, and I climbed down and ran home. My brother told me the Tigers lost, Bobby had fumbled, and the other team scored. The Tigers wouldn't be going to state finals, and Bobby wouldn't be getting a scholarship to play football for state. I opened my storage box and took out Bobby's number and threw it away, along with the picture of the boss's boys. Monday, I'd finished my application to state. Last month, the counselor told me I'd qualify for financial assistance. Thank you. And my second one is how to turn a meth lab into a home. Kevin disappeared the evening of their second anniversary. Weeks later, Leo picked up a house on the cheap at a police auction after it caught fire during a meth lab explosion. His brother helped him remodel it, linoleum flooring, mismatched doors, recycled drywall, junkyard toilet. Leo's sister was dating a city inspector and she got him to rush it through approval. With the house finished, Leo went to a pet adoption center next to a cemetery. Leo tried to hug Rocky and he thrashed Leo with his tail. They both liked rainy Sundays, jigsaw puzzles, and hanging out at Tampa's tapas bars. Rocky opted for the master bedroom because of the chase lounge and the backyard view of the squirrels. Leo moved into the bedroom off the kitchen with a twin bed and a dresser he had made of recycled magazines. That evening, Leo dished out his homemade stew on his granny's Texaco bowls. The doorbell rang. It was Kevin. He said he had joined a crew selling magazine subscriptions and traveled all over Florida, learning the intricacies of the door-to-door trade. Rocky scoffed off to his bedroom after sniffing Kevin's shoes he had removed at the front door. Leo offered Kevin a Sprite, but he wanted tequila. Let's do some shots like the old days. After 5 shots, Kevin began crank calling some of his high school teachers, daring to meet him at the Dairy Queen to tell him why they flunked him. Leo remembered the old days and laced up Kevin's shoes and held the door open for him. Rocky returned to the kitchen to finish the jigsaw puzzle of a grizzly bear with Leo as they shared a jar of bacon bits and waited for the nightly rerun of Mary Tyler Moore to come on at 9:30. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeff Harvey. And everyone, be sure to look for Gooseberry Lit. It's a great journal. And thank you for joining us here on FBOMB tonight, Jeff.
Thank you.
So I also want to give a shout out to our bouncer, Andrea Marcusa, who is just really wonderful about helping us out, making sure we don't get any trouble. So thank you, Andrea. Next, we're going to hear from Jessica Klimesh. Hope I said that right. She's a US-based writer and editor with work in Flash Frog, Cleaver, Atticus Review, Flash Boulevard, and Tramstead, among others. Her work has been nominated for the Pushcart Prize, Best Microfictions, Best Small Fictions, and Best of the Net. She was recently one of 2 first-place winners in Gooseberry Pie's 6-sentence stories contest. And her website is jessicaklimesh.com. Jessica Klimesh.
Thank you, Francine, and thanks for inviting me. I'm going to read 2 pieces. The first one was published in 3 Elements Review last fall, called The Bendable Girls Can Do It. It's hard to do a cartwheel in stilettos, but the bendable girls can do it because they don't require a running start or need that little hop just before in order to become airborne. They simply throw their young rubbery bodies into a fluid movement, attracting attention from boys with blue eyes and girls with green eyes who all say, "Hey, look what the bendable girls can do." It's hard to step into the cab of a truck wearing a tight pencil skirt with fabric that just won't budge, but the bendable girls can do it because their supple legs can twist either way and not just at the knee, and this makes them especially attractive to the cads who leer and titter and say, "If they can do that, the bendable girls can do anything." It's hard to hide adequately in a closet, but the bendable girls can do it because they can just fold their bodies up like shirts on a shelf at the Gap. They fold and fold and fold again the way they folded notes in junior high. They fold up so tight and crisp that it becomes a joke to those who come seeking, who say, "No one can ever find the bendable girls." But it's not a joke to the bendable girls. It's hard to disappear completely, to ignore the hunger for touch, for human contact. But the bendable girls can do it because once they're folded up, they can just be tucked in a pocket or a wallet, inserted between photographs of someone's dogs, parents, or kids, and forgotten about until years later when someone finds them, pulls them out, and says, "Oh, there you are. I wondered where you'd been." And the second one was published in Flash Frog earlier this year. Pinch Me. Ellie and I are fighting over Newton, about whether he's dead or not. Isaac Newton. "Pinch me," I say to Ellie. "I can't tell if I'm really alive." The smell of burning leaves penetrates the neighborhood. "No," Ellie says. "I met Newton once," I say. "He's not really dead." "What, back when you were negative 300 years old?" she says. "I'm older than I look." "You're lying." "Well, if he's dead, then so am I. Pinch me." We've just learned in school that Isaac Newton invented gravity and that before he came along, people floated like they do in space. We also just learned that you're supposed to refer to famous people by their last names. Pinch me, I say again. If I can feel the pinch, it means I'm alive. But if I can't, then you'll know it's true that I really did meet Newton and either he's alive or I'm dead. Our friend Newton, who's not dead, lazes next to us on the tire swing, pushing himself with his feet. Newton's our age, and we like him because he's a boy and because he's always annoyed with us. Are you named after Isaac Newton? Ellie asks him. Shut up, Newton says. He's not named after Isaac, I say. He's named after Fig Newtons. He's named after a cookie. Fig Newtons are not cookies, Ellie says. Newton rolls his eyes. He's not dead now, but he will be in 20 years, after he marries and just after his son is born. A car accident. Pinch me, Ellie, I say, as hard as you can. No, Ellie says. Newton is dead. Everyone knows it. Ellie and I aren't really fighting. It's mostly for Newton's benefit. He prefers golfing around the yard with Ellie's older brother and only hangs out with us if no one else is available. Annoying him is one of our favorite games, so we make up disagreements whenever he's around. Pinch me, I say, more insistent. No. The charade is stupid, but we keep it going, adding in name-calling, glaring, and raised voices for show. Pinch me, I yell, and Ellie finally does. My skin turns white, then red, then returns to normal, as though she never even touched me. I didn't feel it, I say. Look, you can't even see it. I must be dead. I can see it, Ellie says. Newton, will you pinch me? I ask. Ellie didn't pinch hard enough. But Newton is tired of us. He slides off the tire swing and says he's leaving. Please stay, Ellie and I say. But Newton leaves anyway. We know he'll come back, though, maybe in a couple hours, because he loves us as much as he hates us, which is okay when you're young. As soon as Newton's out of earshot, Ellie and I laugh. Do you think he believed we were really fighting? Ellie asks. Pinch me, I say. He's gone, Celia. We don't need to fight anymore. But I want her to pinch me anyway. At home, I sometimes dig my nails into my skin until there's a half moon, until my arm becomes a universe of half moons. Should we tell Newton we were really just kidding around, Ellie asks. She asks us every time. So he knows we weren't really fighting? When Ellie and I were even younger, she threw a rock at me. Maybe it hit me, maybe it didn't. I ran to get away and fell down on the sidewalk, skinning my knee. Do you remember throwing a rock at me? I ask. Ellie shakes her head. It's my memory, not hers. Pinch me again, I say. No, she says. I'm hungry. She starts walking toward the house. Both her mom and my mom were upset about that rock, but Ellie and I thought it was funny. Come on, Ellie yells over her shoulder. Her voice carries like burning leaves. Autumn stings my eyes. My mom took me into the bathroom, the one original to the house, with its musky scent, a mix of my dad's aftershave and humidity. If I cried, it was probably because I was expected to and not because of pain. I remember a cool dab of antiseptic cream, a Band-Aid, and wanting to go back to playing with Ellie. But our moms thought we needed a break from each other, just for a little while. Pinch me, I say again, but my voice sounds hollow now, the air stiff, silent. Ellie is miles away, doesn't hear me. There are just leaves. Thank you.
Wow, Jessica, those are both so well written and imaginative. It just took us all over the place.
Thanks.
Beautiful. Really, really wonderful stuff. Jessica Klimesh, beautiful. And thank you for coming to read with us on Flesh Boulevard, Flesh FBOMB. Sorry, getting all my things mixed up here. Thank you so much. I have enabled the captions. If you want to read along at the bottom, you might want to just turn them on. I find them helpful to read the captions because, you know, people sometimes read fast and you can really also luxuriate in their words that way. I want to also give a shout out to some of our good friends who are nice enough to join us in the Zoom room. Chelsea Stickle, Dave Gregory, Elon Barnahama, Guy Biederman, Calliope Peleos, Patricia Bedar, Ann Weisgerber, who I haven't seen in a while, and my beautiful Aunt Miriam Mandel, who I always say is in her 100th year. So, welcome and thank you for being in on FBOMB. Okay, next we're going to hear from Jeff Burd. Jeff Bird's first chapbook came out April 24th, so congratulations, Jeff. He is fond of saying he spends a lot of time writing and thinking about writing and worrying about not writing and thinking about writing. He graduated from the Northwestern University Writing Program and has taught high school English for almost 30 years in the north suburbs of Chicago. Jeff Bird.
Thank you, Francine. I'm Jeff Bird. Francine, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm honored to be here. I'm reading a selection from my new chapbook, 16 Ways to Be in Love. And I think it's going to sound familiar, Francine. It started one of our workshops. So this is Monster Baby and the Meat Counter Girl. It's a 3-part flash. Monster Baby and the Meat Counter Girl. Part 1, the Meat Counter Girl. You never think that someone whose days ended with a bloody smock and sleeves would spend much time on hair and makeup, but the Meat Counter Girl always looked vibrant. She had a voluptuous frame and seemed naturally enthusiastic each time you saw her. It wasn't right to keep strolling past the meat counter like you were on safari, though, so one day you told the Meat Counter Girl you needed 3 ribeyes, each cut in half. None of that was true. You don't even like steak. Had she called you out on having them, you had nothing to stand on except you wanted to watch her work for even a minute longer, which you would never have said because you didn't want to repeat past mistakes. She eased the steaks out of the display case and cradled them like newborns that would bruise under an indelicate touch. She laid the raw meat on a piece of wax paper on the stainless steel counter. Rub? Your face warmed at the question. Please, you managed to cough out a fraction of a second before things got awkward. She dusted the succulent pink cuts with black pepper and kosher salt and began kneading them. This will soften them, she said, somehow laying her eyes on the meat and you at the same time. Soften them indeed, you said with your chin up for having produced a quip so effortlessly. Except you didn't say it because it stuck in your throat where you kept it safe and thought about it and practiced it and then said it the next time. Part 2, Monster Baby. You were tangled up with the Meat Counter Girl on her couch when she said, put your hand over her mouth. You didn't think it was a healthy choice to use your strength against her, and you didn't want to repeat past mistakes. She had pouty eyes, though, and you were worked up after going forever without being tangled up with someone on a couch, so you put your fingertips on her lips. You were on the Meat Counter Girl's couch again the next week when she said, do that thing again. She clutched your hand and smothered her nose and mouth. You couldn't pull your hand away, even though you're pretty strong. You were lying there afterwards when she said she wants more of that. A big husky man like you shouldn't have a problem doing it, should he? You were spending a lot of time in the Meat Counter Girl's place and asked if you could park some things in her closet where you still have space. She registered a surprised look, said she's cleaning and rearranging and that she'd let you know. You thought at first you did it. You repeated a past mistake, but maybe not because her look was not an unpleasant one. The Meat Counter Girl's tutorial on cracking eggs for steak tartare was nice. You liked the feel of her hand guiding you through the minimal amount of force needed to split the shells against the lip of the bowl. You worked on the other eggs while she chopped and gathered the meat. That's when you brought up meeting her friends and family. It seemed the right time to ask. She said, don't ask, that she'd say when. You couldn't tell if she was being a hard ass or goofing. You looked at her, but she looked at you, more like I caught you in that moment of hesitation and saw something. She threw her full weight into you, pinning you between the fridge and the cupboard. You couldn't move, even though you're pretty strong. Her satisfaction at her advantage over you manifested in a fiery look in her eyes. She grabbed you with her cold, red-streaked hands and put your hands on her neck. She squeezed her hands on yours, and then you were tangled up with her on the kitchen floor. The meat counter girl FaceTimed you the next morning. She unclasped a heart pendant that dangled down to her cleavage, shimmied out of her turtleneck, and showed you the dark purple splotches that ringed her neck. She giggled and said, "You're my monster, baby." She latched on to Monster Baby after that, which was okay when you were tangled up with her. But the meat counter girl said it at the store and the movies and a whole lot of other places where people gave you looks. You should probably have said something. You're not a monster. Part 3, Monster Baby and the meat counter girl. You finally got to meet the meat counter girl's friends when a couple she knew came over for drinks and a smoke. She introduced you as Monster Baby. The woman laughed and you thought, "Hey, bitch." The man shook your hand and asked if Monster Baby was a riff on Monty. You tried to tell him to call you Michael, but the meat counter girl said it's Monster Baby and laughed. All night it was Monster Baby this and Monster Baby that as you ran back and forth with snacks and drinks. Your temples were throbbing after a while. She went to the meat counter girl's bedroom. Before you laid down, you looked in her closet. That space was still there. The meat counter girl came in after her friends left and said, "The party's not over, Monster Baby." She reeked of booze and weed. You told her it was nice to meet her friends, but you're heading home. She straddled you and said, "Not yet, Monster Baby." You said, "Stop calling you that." The meat counter girl asked, "What if I don't?" And you wondered again if she was being a hard ass or goofing. She put your hands on her neck. Her flesh was warm and tender. You told her to say Michael as your fingertips sank into the grooves you'd carved out over the last few weeks. She shook her head. You squeezed until she stopped. She pulled you on top of her, clutching your wrists, her fingers digging in the same as yours. The meat counter girl's face reddened in the dim lights. You felt her neck cracking and popping. You let go when she was finally lying still. You got off her and got your coat. You came back to tell her goodbye. Her hands rested on her chest and were rising and falling with her breath. Her eyes twinkled when you looked down at her. She was making some ragged wheezing and muh sounds. She might have been trying to say Michael. It didn't matter. It was too late. You'd already repeated past mistakes. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jeff Burd. Jeff, where can we get your book?
On Amazon. Came out through Alien Buddha Press, and it's on Amazon.
Great, thank
So
you.
thanks for asking, Francine.
Sure. And Jeff and I actually met in person about 5 years ago at Kathy Fish's and Nancy Stallman's Grand Lake retreat, and Chelsea Stickle was there and Ann Weisgerber, and they're both here in the Zoom room. We were there, and I remember Jeff mostly because we ended up washing dishes together. You know, it was a very rustic kind of thing where we all had little jobs after we ate. And Jeff and I drew the same dishwashing duty one night. So it was actually kind of fun though. So anyway, Jeff Burd. We have one more reader from me for my section before I turn it over to Paul Beckman. And that's Melissa Llanes Brownlee, she, her. And she's putting the global in the global FBOMB tonight. She is in Japan, where I believe it's tomorrow already. Some ungodly hour. So we really appreciate her being here. She's a native Hawaiian writer living in Japan, has work published and forthcoming in Craft, Swamp Pink, Pinch, Moon City Review, and the Three Penny Review. Read Hard Skin, from which I've read too. It's a beautiful book. From Juventud Press, and Kai and Lua from Alien Buddha, also another Alien Buddha Press. She tweets at Lum Chan MFA, and talks story at melissalanesbrownlee.com. Melissa Llanes Brownlee. Melissa Llanes Brownlee. Take it away.
Oh, thank you, Francine, for inviting me to join. I'm sorry. It's about 7:40 in the morning, and I just rolled out of bed before this. So hey, but anyway, yes, I would like to first start with a piece that was published this week in Ghost Parachute. So I will get that open. Okay. Bitches be crazy. Ain't no thing as a free lunch. The man is out to get you, you spout, riding that pinball machine, sticks sticking, balls balling, beeps beeping, clangs clanging, hair sprayed a poofed helmet, a mirror of the metal band on the altar before us, and we line up along its flanks, lights dazzling our eyes, tiny acolytes drinking in your wisdom, too young to see the line you tread, torn jeans, graffiti chucks, ripped t-shirts peeking out beneath anarchist-stained jean jacket, armor for a battle you know you can't win. But we don't know that, not yet. Placing our quarters along the edge, waiting for the moment you choose us to follow you. A little short piece there. Thank you. I really, really love that piece. Perfect for Ghost Parachute. I'm so happy that they took that. I'm grateful that Jeff is here because the next piece I would like to read is actually also was published in Gooseberry Pilot. It's my first one with them called Paradise. So yeah, Paradise. The lion died the day the circus arrived. The asphalt of the old airport steamed the hay in its too tiny cage. The trade winds carried a mix of salt and musk and decay from the beach nearby through our little fishing village. We were so eager to see him perform, top hats and whips, chairs and fiery hoops, under a candy cane striped tent. All the things we'd seen on TV, in movies, in Saturday morning cartoons. Now, his lonely spirit stalks our seawall, weaving around the ghostly tiki torchlights of our fake paradise past, his silent roar echoing in the surf. And I think hopefully I have time for one more. They're so short, you guys. I write such short little pieces. Okay, so the last one was in Hex Literary, and it's The Mongoose. The mongoose took out a semi today, according to the uncles and aunties. There was a blurry brown streak under the front wheel, and the rig skipped over the edge of the embankment, taking out the guardrail, crushing all the trees and bushes in its path as it rolled down the slope. The paper fresh off the boat, trying to escape. No one saw how it happened, but everyone knew it was the mongoose. You had to be careful on the roads. It was better to let a mongoose pass and possibly get a fender bender than to run it over and total your car and maybe yourself. Sometimes, after a few drinks, the aunties and uncles would talk about its origins. Some of the uncles saw its parents die, killed by an unwary motorist, and in its rage and sadness became this immovable being. Some of the aunties thought it was just so tired of humanity that it liked to see how much chaos it could cause by hurtling its improbably strong body under any and all tires it could. We like to play mongoose roulette. We drive with the lights off on our dark mountain roads. It really wasn't much of a risk. They actually hunted during the day. We were more likely to fly off the edge of the road than hit a mongoose, let alone the mongoose. We still liked the thought of testing our luck. We figured if we missed it or it missed us, it would probably be a good weekend. If not, what a better way to go. We'd laugh to ourselves as we drank and smoked, parked along our dead-end streets. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Melissa, and now you can go back to bed.
I want to hear everybody, but I will get more.
Afterwards, of course, after all this, but thank you so much for coming, and feels like you're right here. It's the beauty of Zoom. Melissa Llanes Brownlee. Thank you for being here. Okay, now I'm going to turn it over to my co-host, Paul Beckman, who's going to read for a bit, and then he will be introducing the readers in the second half of the program. So Paul Beckman. Paul Beckman's fourth flash collection, Becoming Merklee, which is this little number right here, from Trevena Barva Press, is a CNF chap memoir. Kiss Kiss, Truth Serum Press, I also have that, but I don't have it handy, was a finalist for the 2019 Short Story Indie Book Awards. His stories have appeared in the following publications, as well as many others: Spelk, Necessary Fiction, Litro, Pank, Playboy, woohoo, Thrice Fiction, and The Lost Balloon. Paul curates the Zoom FBOMB Global Flash Fiction series here that began monthly at KGB's Red Room in New York City, but since the pandemic has switched to Zoom and co-hosts with Francine Witte, this guy over here. So if you would welcome Paul Beckman.
Hi, nice to see you, old friends and new friends. This is a short flash that's coming out in Matter Press. Thank you, Isaac. Everyone's getting ready for the party. Mom and Dad say there should always be a reason for a party, but neither one remembers the reason. We start parties, so we just go about our business. And tonight our business is decorating and serving food. And then I see it as the last sliver of sun goes behind the ghost hills to the north. A tiny sliver of orange breaks through from the east, and everyone stops and watches it and can taste the juicy orb. And then little by little, it begins to segment like shooting stars, and the residents of Isaac Newtonville smile and jump up and down, not ready to talk or do anything, but wait and mind taste the tangerine, when suddenly it segments and begins to fall with only the tangerine silk holding together. Then the move comes on, and Isaac Newton, founder of our town, laughs and claps his hands. Segments keep splitting into smaller ones until everyone has their taste of tangerine, and they sit in crescents around the town bonfire and eat and slurp and smile, so happy that tangerine season is upon us, and they don't look forward to the baby season and become morose, fearful for the change of seasons. Thank you all. Our first reader in part 2 is Siddiqui Rosmus.
Hi, guys.
Siddiqui originally hails from Ironbound section of Newark, New Jersey, once voted the unfriendliest city on the planet. She talks like anybody's from West Side Story and everybody from Saturday Night Fever. Her stories have been published in places like Shotgun Honey, the Rye Whiskey Review, and Rock and a Hard Place. She's the editor and art director of Yellow Mama. Siddiqui Rosmus.
Thanks, guys. First, I'm going to read 2 flash pieces. The first one is called Dishes, Dishes, Dishes. And I thought of that before when you guys were talking about washing dishes in the story. All your life, you hated washing dishes. Your mom's fancy china, pots and pans caked with grease. Broke as you were, you'd toss your own versus scrubbing them. Buy new ones in the dollar store. Now here you are, so hard up since shit had left, you'll do the thing you hate most. Sorry, the cook says, breathing booze in your face. We don't need no waitresses. Like waitressing is every girl's dream. You see 2, a graying redhead and a mummified blonde. I'm here to wash dishes. It sounds fake. Like you're a hired killer and this is a front. Like some scorned chick hired you to take out this cook. Shemp's his name, like in the Three Stooges. Nah, you think not him. Shemp's like 50, with this shock of white hair that's gotta be real. A Hawaiian shirt and shorts that reveal two hairy legs. He looks familiar, like that hunk from your mom's day who drove the Navy Lincoln all over town, each time with a different blonde. As he got older, the blondes got plumper with doughy made up faces. Was that Shemp? Never washed dishes before? No, it's true, you'd die first. He snorts. Good luck. And leads you to the kitchen, where his girl was, a chunky blonde in tube top and shorts. That's him, you realize, Mom's first love. Now the cook at Casa Fratelli. Little does the clientele know this tarantula-legged fuck is sauteing the shrimp between shots of buka. Greasy pots piled to the sky, dishes stacked at a crazy angle in a sink from like 1910. And at Casa Fratelli, you think, fat roaches screwed up the wok. Ha! Shemp says when you cringe. Even the best restaurants got him. You know you'll never eat here again. Only one automatic dishwasher. For all these dishes. Hand me that apron, he tells Fatty Pants. Do it yourself. Fuck you, bitch. You walked into that on your first night. But they were battling before, you can tell. The blonde was too quiet, like she was waiting, maybe hoping to be fucked with. She's got the craziest eyes going. The grimy apron is for you. Shemp throws it at you. When it lands in your face, he snickers. Ha ha! Fatty Pants says sarcastically, like he thinks he's funny, but he's so not. For some reason, you start with the pots. Puttanesca sauce cake so thick it'll never come off. Never! Back home, that fucker would be in the trash by now, on the garbage truck already. Like an asshole, you try scrubbing it with a sponge. Good luck, Shemp says again. You need it. These pots are hopeless. The matronly waitresses dump dish after dish on the belt, and the dishwasher's fucked up. Shit, you think. A half hour later, it's almost closing time. Your elbows are killing you. You start stacking silverware. Hurry up, will you? Shemp says drunkenly from behind you. You like that, don't you? Fatty Pants means you. She's as drunk as him now. Nah, you hear bottles clink. No meat on her. Like you're not even here. Size, he says, snickering. I like blondes. You know what's coming. Blondes, she says. Like how many? How many? Shemp says, getting pissed. Like too many. So, I'm not blonde enough for you? Forget it, Shemp says wearily. A wave of booze hits you as Fatty Pants reaches past you, grabs something off the tray. Scrunch, you hear next. Ah! Shemp says, sounding choked. Then, scrunch again. You fuck, she says. You turn around, nearly keel over. The biggest knife she took it is hack it away. Shemp gags as blood shoots out of his neck. He grabs it, tries to stop bleeding. In minutes, he'll be dead. But she keeps chopping, chest, shoulders. Now she's sobbing. Blood is everywhere, even on you, way over there, on dishes you washed. Like the whole world is splashed with puttanesca sauce. Help! You scream finally. Till then, Fatty Pants forgot about you. Luckily, a waitress runs in and screams. The old blonde. I got one more. This is called Kitsy. This is my newest story I did. I ran it on my own webzine, Yellow Mama, because we needed a flash story last minute. Kitsy. I think I was 5 when Kitsy passed. Young enough where they whispered about it instead of saying straight out, your cat is dead. But she wasn't. Not really. I still saw her. When I threw treats into the corner where she slept, they disappeared. Whether inside her ghostly belly or into a black hole in space, who knows? Anytime I looked in that space between that scratched up couch and the window, there was Kitsy's big, fluffy, gray body. Alive. Sleeping or grooming or glaring about something she'd overheard. You fucking drunk, Mom said as Pop poured a sloppy shot. Robbing me of my womanhood. She laughed harshly, blaming it on a helpless baby. Me. Cringing, I crawled into the space between the couch and window. Bitch, Daddy said. As she smacked the shot out of his mouth, I buried my face in Kitsy's fur, real or not. It's okay, Kitsy whispered in her purry voice. I breathed in the smell of dust cat treats, trusted her to save me from misplaced punches, hurled furniture, then glass as the window shattered above us. Is she nuts? Mom asked Aunt Josie a few years later. Kitsy is dead. The cat's been dead since. She still sees her, Aunt Josie said, and talks to her. At his side, I almost cried. I trusted Aunt Josie with my secret. She's got one, Kitsy purred from the corner, kissing and touching where they shouldn't have. Aunt Josie and Daddy. Somehow, even before Kitsy told me, I knew. At parties, Aunt Josie sipped from Daddy's drink, sharing secret looks, half smiles they thought no one saw. She only wore that push-up bra when Daddy was there. In the summer, she had tan lines from her boring bathing suit, the one Uncle Tommy made her wear. Curly, dark-haired Uncle Tommy, who'd almost been a priest. For that, Kitsy got extra treats. No child of mine, Mom told Aunt Josie. We'll see a shrink. Stretching, Kitsy yawned. Inside her snake with fur's mouth, I saw a lot more secrets. Then maybe, Aunt Josie said, Tom. Daddy had sandy hair, eyes as gray as Kitsy's fur, a dimpled chin, which I didn't have either. All I had at Daddy's was his last name, Rush. Growing up, I looked like Mom and someone else. Someone, Kitsy told me, who likes secrets, like in Confessions. That crazy, curly, dark-haired teen had plenty. This crazy, dark-haired teen had plenty. Years of talking to imaginary cats, hiding treats in couch cushions, wearing splintered glass like a shroud. Lately, sneaking antifreeze into sweet drinks. Kitsy knew just how much to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Next reader is Bill Merklee. His work has appeared in numerous journals, was included in Best Microfiction 2021 and nominated for Best Small Fictions 2022 and 2024. Most recently, he was shortlisted 2024 Beth Davila and Flash Award. Congratulations, Bill Merklee.
Thank you, Paul. Following Cindy requires bourbon. Okay. I read this piece a while ago when it was still a work in progress, and now it's going to come out later in the year in Third Street Review, and it's called Threshold. Henry answers his door down on one knee. I guess we're not going to lunch, I say, helping him to the sofa. I can barely breathe, he says. Then we're going to the hospital. It's right up the street. No, I have to see my doctors in Westchester. My brother and his wife are coming in from Pennsylvania. They'll take me. You need to go now. I can't go looking like this. Really? I'll get your shoes. So much for leaving a good-looking corpse. Henry puts his meds in a fanny pack. With his left arm across my shoulders, we shuffle to my car. I buckle him in like he's a limp toddler. The drive to Westchester takes about an hour up the Palisades to 9W and the Tappan Zee. For somebody having trouble breathing, Henry can still talk my ear off. Last Friday, I met a friend who came in for the Gay Olympics, he says. My friend was staying in Midtown, so we went down to the village for lunch. The city was just crawling with faggots and dykes. When we got to Christopher Street, forget it. They were all over the place. They should have just blocked the street. And that was only Friday. So there I am walking around in an oversized t-shirt and sweatpants. I only saw 2 other people who looked sick. One of them was in total denial. The uniform for summer '94 seems to be tank tops or no shirts, those knee-length khaki shorts, kind of preppy looking, and those Sinead O'Connor black work boots all laced up. He was dressed like that, but he looked ludicrous because his legs were pencil thin, thinner than mine. He had on a tank top and his bones were popping out everywhere. How do you leave the house looking like that? Henry coughs, takes several tries to clear his throat. The other guy I saw was very thin, wore a big brimmed hat and a long sleeved shirt and long pants, but you could tell he was sick by how gaunt he was. Everyone else looked healthy. I'm certain at least a third were infected. There's a difference between being infected and being sick. Henry squints through pulsing sunlight at the glittering Hudson on its slow roll to the sea. When I got home, I was so depressed. Being in that crowd and that energy, I mean, I didn't go fuck 5 guys behind the bushes or get dates for the next 5 nights, but I did like the flirtation, checking people out and knowing they were checking others out. I felt like such an eyesore. My friend said, "I don't think you look as bad as all that." I said it was all the foundation. This is going to sound bigoted because my friend is Korean, but I told him Korean gays think all white men are gorgeous, just like straight men think all Japanese women are exotic, like the Latin men I knew wanted a blonde. It didn't matter what you looked like under the hair, as long as it was blonde. So yeah, I'm depressed about the way I look, more depressed that I have so little control over it. Henry falls silent. Thinking I should keep him awake, I bring up our first high school reunion, how the asshole drunks were still asshole drunks 10 years later, how some girls I wouldn't have looked at twice in homeroom showed up stunning, how everyone I'd suspected of being gay really was. Your gaydar was almost as good as mine, he says. Some managed to fly under, I say. Certain football players. Yeah, and the hunky actor. And still, Henry says, I was always crushing on my straight friends. Outside the emergency room, Henry cannot stand. I pick him up like he's made of straw and carry him through the sliding doors. A nurse helps me lay him on a stretcher, wheels him to a side room. When I was a kid, the antiseptic air of a hospital meant needles and stitches and casts. A couple of years from now, it will signify magic and joy when my wife brings new life into the world. Today, it's last hopes. The doctor says Henry will stay a few days to have fluid drained from his lungs, and do I have any questions? Someone rolls in a comfortable chair, asks if they can get me anything, if I need to use a phone. The staff are stealing glances from the nurses' station when I realize who they think I am. I say nothing. Thanks.
Terrific, Bill. Our next reader is Louella Lester. She is a writer, photographer in Winnipeg, Canada, author of Glass Bricks at Bay Press, a contributing editor at New Flash Fiction Review, and has a story selected for Best Microfiction 2024. Her writing appears and is forthcoming in a variety of journals and anthologies, most recently McQueen's, Winterly, Gooseberry Pie, Holy Review, Bright Flash, SoFlo Pojo, The Ekphrastic Review, and Cult Magazine. Louella.
Thanks. Hi, and I'm really enjoying everybody's readings. I don't type in the chat anymore because I just don't have the attention span to listen to the stories and one finger type because I didn't listen to my mom and take typing when I was in high school. So, and she's no longer here, but she would be happy to hear me saying that. I should have done it. I'm going to read, I'm mostly writing short micros lately. And so I'm going to read some of those, a couple of more serious ones, and then a couple with a little bit of humor. And the first one happens to also be in Gooseberry Pie. Got an honorable mention. I was just thrilled in the contest. and it's called A Near Perfect Ending. He now knows he doesn't need world cruises, affairs with models, or ghostly visitations from his long-dead wife. It's the scent of pie cooling, the limping cat's meow after 3 days' absence, the sharp sting of relief when an unruly nose hair is plucked, the touch of worn motorcycle leathers, soft despite their many scars. It's these small pleasures woven into an open highway that's still willing to wait. And the next one was published in March in Paragraph Planet, and it's called A Perfect Blank. And I live in a city where it's pretty gritty sometimes, and this is a pretty common thing to see these police posts online. A perfect blank. This morning, I read a post about a missing teenage girl last seen in my neighborhood, and I studied the profile photo provided just in case. Skin whitewashed and filtered smooth, no pimples, no birthmarks, no scars, eyes toothpicked anime wide, pout puff pasted into place above her chin, no grin, no frown, hair edited and shaped into a starlit gloss, not a single fault to help me recognize that one and only face. And this one, they always say not to say anything before your story because you're giving it away or something, or you're supposed to let the story speak for itself, but I'm that type of person that always has to say something. One of my favorite songs ever was Bill Withers' Ain't No Sunshine. And as a kid, I remember listening to, probably it was like the 45, I'm aging myself, and I just loved that song. So this one is sort of a homage to that. And also, I live where the Canada geese every spring are doing their mating stuff on the townhouse roofs by the river right outside my balcony. So those are the two factors here. No sunshine, no home. It's your nature. You must go, is what she tells her Canada goose when summer heat sends him north or winter winds pull him south. She can only kiss his bill before he honks goodbye and flies, because she doesn't have the wings to travel the V alongside him. Stuck there in between, she throws back Grey Goose vodka shots while waiting for him to bring back the warmth, until her friends put the bottle away, saying he'll always return because it's also in his nature to mate for life. And all she can say is, I know, I know, I know, if you know the song. And this last one is just a sort of a typical thing in my, not last one, my second last one here is a sort of a typical thing. It's called An Ordinary Breakfast. When she tips the container and pours the blueberries over the bowl of oat milk, a lone berry escapes, scoots to the edge of the counter, teeters there for less than a second, dives to the floor, rolls away towards the refrigerator. At least she assumes it does, because she's wearing reading glasses, not her progressive bifocals, or even the single vision ones she uses to watch television. And things are a bit of a blur. She whips off the reading glasses and squints. Nothing. Bends for a closer look. Nothing. Tries swiping her hand under the fridge, but her fingers won't fit. Says fuck twice. Stalks to her desk, yanks open a drawer and pulls out a ruler. While there, she exchanges her reading glasses for bifocals. On her way back, Violet steps on something cold and squishy, nowhere near the fridge. I'm not alone in those kinds of things, am I? And this last one, I wasn't going to read this, but you know what? I was walking home from a friend just before this, and I walked across this corner that I talk about here, and there's always some action going on there. It's called Spare Change. I hear it, or some variation, whenever I cross the corner wedged between the coffee shop, the liquor store, and the yield running off Osborne Street to River Avenue. If I have coins, I pull them out. Not my business how money's spent once it changes hands. If I have none, I smile and say, sorry, not today. This evening, a man in his 20s, feet dwarfed in laceless runners, holds out his hand. I'm saving up for a Lamborghini, he says, laughing, open mouth, bearing mostly gums and a few teeth. I laugh along with him, wishing I could make some change. Thank you.
Thank you, Louella. Sudha Balagopal next. Her writing appears in Craft, Split Lip, and Smoke Long Quarterly, among other journals. Her novella in Flash, Things I Can't Tell Amma, was published by Ad Hoc Fiction in 2021. Most recently, her novella in Flash, Nose Ornaments, was runner-up in the Bath contest. She has had stories included in Best Microfiction, Best Small Fictions, and the Woodleaf Top 50. More at sudhabalagopal.com.
Thank you, Paul. Well, I have two mom stories because Mother's Day is coming up, and the first one was in Gooseberry Pie just last week. Okay. All jade and pretty looking. Indian gooseberries are in season, which is why Ma sends me to the market so she can pickle the striped green fruit in salt, oil, and chili powder. No idea why the ball of sourness is called a fruit, and when I protest, she lists the virtues of the marble-sized orb. It's got lots of vitamin C and has been used as medicine for centuries. I walk to the nearest vendor because I'm hoping to coax Ma into giving me money so I can watch a movie with Raj, a neighborhood college student, who makes my heart go pitter-patter with poetic texts. But I plan on telling Ma I'm getting together with my classmates, all girls, since she'll never let me go alone with him, saying, you're only 16 and too young for such things. Last time I went to the movie theater, she didn't ask who with, but she sent my 11-year-old pest brother to accompany me for protection, and Raj snapped his teeth together but bought 3 tickets anyway. Only my idiot brother sat between the two of us, crunching his popcorn, talking loudly, slapping Raj on his shoulder. So naturally, Raj said, why did you bring that gooseberry? This should be just the two of us. After I returned from the market, I released the carefully chosen fruit, also called amla, from the bag, and they gambol all jade and pretty looking on the counter, distracting Ma while I hide the borrowed halterneck top into my bag because Ma'll shout, don't you dare wear that. 10 minutes into the film, Raj's hand snakes around my back, nails scratchy rough, placed with the throat strap of my top, and next thing I know, the metal button rolls onto the floor of the dark theater. So there's nothing to hold up the top, at which he laughs like the situation's hilarious. Well, I want to cry. I want to disappear. I want to ask what happened to his tender words. Instead, I gather the fabric with one hand, my bag in the other, shiver change in the bathroom, and repeat. Do not see him again. At home, I find my pest brother tasting the freshly made gooseberry pickle, giggling and squinching his eyes as the tartness hits. So I grab a spoon, dig into the bowl, and when Ma wiggles her crescent eyebrows, I ask, didn't you say this is good for me? So that was in Gooseberry Pie. And The same week, I had another story also about a mother in Vast Chasm, and it's called Some Opposites Are Easier to Understand. I failed the antonyms test. One question asks if my father is absent or present. I circle both. Another asks if my mother is kind or unkind. I write, I don't know. My teacher's eyes narrow behind her black framed spectacles. She tosses my paper on my desk. Your answers are not funny. It's the truth. My father's mostly absent, I tell her. Her nostrils flare and she snorts. Just because he's gone temporarily doesn't mean he's absent. After Appa calls to say he'll be late returning from work, Amma says we're going to Kavi Auntie's. She asked me to wear the purple and yellow checked pinafore, an outfit she sewed using a magazine picture and her trusty singer, because the lady is foreign returned. Amma also instructs me to be on my best behavior. Auntie shows me her golden-haired, blue-eyed doll. When I pull on the string attached to her back, the doll blinks her dark lashes and sings, I love you. I push and pull on the string. The doll repeats the words again and again until the string comes off in my hand and she doesn't speak anymore. Amma watches me through narrowed eyes and unclenches and clenches her fists. On our way home, she mutters through tight lips, you were so good today. Such a well-behaved girl. Of course, Kavi will invite us again. Some opposites are easier to understand. For up and down, our teacher puts a book on top of her desk and then on the floor. For short and tall, she makes the tallest student in the class stand next to the shortest one. She taught us the opposite of responsible is irresponsible with the story, The Ant and the Grasshopper. I like that opposites are also called antonyms. I'm coming home after returning a book at my friend's when I see the fox. Beady eyes gleaming, teeth bared in a snarl, just outside our door. Amma, there's a scary animal in our house, I scream. She smacks her forehead, then picks up the animal, she, who doesn't even like our neighbor's little Pomeranian. In the living room, Appa's glued to the news. What a wonderful gift you bought your daughter, Amma says. A stuffed animal, just perfect. Appa turns up the volume. There's talk of rain and floods, he says. They say this one will be big. I must go to my mother's. Amma walks into the kitchen, turns the faucet on full force. Appa spends weekends helping my grandmother. He takes her shopping. He helps her find a plumber or an electrician, waits while they repair things. On Fridays, he goes to her place from work so he can take her to the bank and then stays over. Amma rushes out of the kitchen. Of course you should go to your mother's. She's important. She drops a pan. It clangs against the floor. I want to ask Appa why he hasn't learned about Amma's opposites, but he's listening to the news. Thank you.
Thank you, Sudha. And our last reader for this evening is Annie Bean. She's published 2 poetry collections, won an LISP flash fiction competition and a pamphlet competition by Avery Press. Messages from Under a Pillow, which includes her own illustrations. She is an English translator of Tibetan Buddhist scriptures, published by 84,000, forthcoming. And forthcoming is a historical novel on the 6th Dalai Lama, co-written with Robert Thurman. Annie.
Thank you, Paul, and thanks, Francine, for inviting me. I haven't done a reading for quite a long time, and it's funny because I thought I would read my new prologue that I wrote for the second draft of my novel of Rain at Fragrant Harbor, which some of you may have heard parts of. But then I thought it's a little strange to read the beginning at the very end. So I have also added a very short bit from Messages Under the Pillow, which is the last piece in that. So Rain at Fragrant Harbor. I hear Kunga knock, but not the usual way. He taps once, then waits. The door clicks open. I hear him hold his breath. He refrains from entering. Even the squeaky hinge sounds subdued. Rinpoche. I look down. I'm lying very still, eyes closed, my face pale, even though dawn casts a pink glow across the window. My head tips to receive sunlight. Another beautiful morning in the Himalayas. Clouds shift in gray-blue streaks. Peaks appear and disappear behind glimpses of pale gold sunrise. Blue shadowed cliffs pierce the sky. The wind makes a low hum through the window. Tashi Delay Rinpoche, good morning. Kunka can't hear me murmuring a mantra because I no longer speak or nod. Kunga can't hear me because that body lying so still is me, bathed in sunlight. My form dissolves into a seam of daylight. Kunga pulls the covers close around my body, the sheets spread wider and larger. I'm no longer there as his teacher. He wraps me tightly with a heavy blanket for warmth. He presses my palms together and bows. He leans close. No sound. No movement. My skin is cool. He picks up a small hand mirror and places it against my nostrils. No fog of breath. Kunga begins to chant prayers, a teardrop of recognition. Grief has begun and manifests as a droplet from his right eye and rolls down his cheek. Yes, it's happened. Now I can move on a moment's notice, Kunga. If you ask, I will return. Rinpoche, don't leave me behind. I say this not because I want to hold on to you forever, but I know I can't. Kunga kneels with his hands in prayer. I wave a light breeze toward him to soothe my dear attendant's tears. I place my hand on your cheek, Kunga. This warm breeze is me. Oh, Rinpoche, you need to come back for everyone else, please. He shuts his eyes and weeps. Okay, I will. Rinpoche, it's my moment. And with you, before others arrive, Kunga whispers. He opens the window for me. And even though he knows I can travel everywhere all at once without opening anything. Farewell. Farewell, my friend. Look for me. I've left a message. I will return. Everything that is born passes along a line of existence drawn with zigzags, curves, slants, and then arrives at an endpoint, passes from this life to the next, bringing a new existence. All living beings will transition. My current existence dissolves. I've shed body, gender, pronoun, form, feeling into shimmering mirage, smoke, fireflies, the flame flickering. My ordinary mind seeps away. An innate mind hovers. Luminous, radiant, imminent, the solution, and then translucence. Clear light. An ejection of consciousness, premonitions and memory dissipate through a crease of sunrise. Other consciousnesses turn. Messages from those on the brink of awakening linger, still submerged. They search for their teacher, knowing and unknowing. That avalanche of Himalayan snow, Dayab in spring, hawks and swallows, flying branches, that fox sprints, antelopes and churus flee. There's absence, lack of presence. This dissolution of verbs, a particle among many, falls into space, dissipates. Moon drops from the one who has just departed. The impermanent state will transform into an intermediary state. nameless. You will find your rebirth. This time you will have more than one name. You will reclaim your new body. 20 years pass. And this is, thank you. And this is the 7th message from Messages Under the Pillow, which is actually part of this story. And I had to rewrite the beginning because I changed point of views. Everything's in first person now. So this is the last message. You ask, can we be close when we're far apart? There's no distance between this paper and the thought that moves my hand to write these words. I enclose my messages to you in physical objects, rice paper, blue ink, wrapped cloth, but the words you read, what you hear aloud or in whisper, will be closer than me next to you. When you read this, the words will travel farther than I ever can. From their presence on this page, they'll lift to enter your eyes, ready to sing the tone of an owl under moonlight. Just as the moon has phases, so do we, in shade or light, in darkness or day. I'll always be there, always. The words point to where I am. When I look at the moon, I know we will see the same moon in a different part of the sky. We aren't far apart. We will meet again. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie.
Thanks very much.
Well, group, you've been terrific tonight, as usual. Thank you all for coming out. And hope to see you again soon. And hear you.
Thank you, Paul. I'm gonna just say thank you to our wonderful readers, Sara, Siddiqui, Chansarkar, Jeff Harvey, Jessica Klimesh, Jeff Burd, Melissa Llanes, Brownlee, Paul Beckman, my wonderful co-host, Cindy Rosmus, Bill Merklee, Louella Lester, Sudha Balagopal, and Annie Bean. You've been wonderful. I think I promised you a night of beautiful flash fiction, and I hope you'll agree that I think we delivered. So we'll be back next month, Paul Beckman and myself, Francine Witte. Until then, have a good night and drive safely. I'm going to stop the recording.